What's up, everybody? We are live for this special Sunday edition of Direct Connections. And my special guest for today is the YouTube sensation, Dylan McCool. I've been wanting to get Dylan on this show for a long time. He goes on some wild Mopar adventures, and he's a huge figure in the YouTube Mopar community. And I really enjoy his videos, and I enjoy seeing what kind of crazy projects he brings home to get running and all that fun stuff. So he's going to be joining us here in just a little bit. We'll wait and see how many people show up, but glad you're here on a Sunday. Maybe you just got back from church or whatever the case may be. You are now in the Church of Mopar, and we're going to have a lot of fun. I just spent a while recording my submission video for Chief Donut Maker, which was a lot of fun. I think I might have screwed up, and here's how. I went off the top of the head. Okay. I went from the heart, but it took several takes, and the amount of takes I might as well have just wrote a script. It took so many takes, but I wanted it to be as natural as possible, because one thing that they're looking for, and Dylan is in the house, we'll bring him on in just a second. One thing that Dodge is looking for this Chief Donut Maker is somebody who is comfortable live streaming. And when you script everything, that's not necessarily live streaming. You know what I mean? So we'll give it a shot and see what happens. But Dylan McCool is in the house, YouTube sensation. Let's bring him on. I've got all sorts of questions, and I will open up the chat to anybody that has any questions for Dylan. It should be a lot of fun. So let's bring Dylan on. Dylan, can you hear me?
Hey, hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, brother. Welcome to Talking Mopars. I'm excited to finally get you on the show and talk about what you do, which is basically you're a master of YouTube, and you have a lot of fun videos that you've put out with project cars. And my audience loves project cars, especially ratty muscle cars, especially ratty Mopar muscle cars. So if you can, Dylan, introduce yourself. And I'm really curious to go back to the beginning, before Dylan McCool had over 1 million YouTube views, before you had over 500,000 subscribers, and before 229 videos. How long have you been a Mopar enthusiast? What sparked your interest in cars?
Well, first off, thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
You make me sound a lot better than I actually am, so I appreciate that.
It's my
And
job.
might have to get you to film an intro for me and talk me up a little bit. But I guess I mean, when I was a kid. I mean, my dad was huge into Mopars. I mean, and a lot of old cars, but mainly specifically Mopars, because growing up, that's what he had. I mean, he was fooling with old cars. His first vehicle was a 72 or 3 Dodge long bed that, I mean, he pulled it out of a field and got it running. And, ever since then, that's really what he's messed with. And growing up, I was around all that. I mean, he had Cudas and Challengers, Chargers, back when you could buy a Charger, like a 68 to 70 Charger, for like $3,500. It was, you can't do that anymore. But
Yeah.
it's crazy how it's gotten, how the prices have skyrocketed. But yeah, just being around that all my life. I mean, my first car, I borrowed the money from my grandmother, and it was $600. I bought a 74 Dart Sport.
Nice.
And just being like, I paid her back over, like, working in her yard, and it taught me a lot about how to work for what you want, and it'll humble you real quick. But just throwing together a car with used parts, just having, like, whatever you had, is what you used. And
Absolutely.
when you have nothing to start with, you kind of gotta get a little tricky with it. But yeah, he just, growing up around that really brought me up to where I was like, man, I just, it's hard not to, you know what I mean? When you ride around in a 344 speed Dart or a big block Challenger, it's hard to not be just enthused by all that.
Absolutely, man. Now, at what point in your history were you like, I'm going to start a YouTube channel? Was the goal to get really big, or was it kind of like a hobby at first? Because it seems like you're on your way. I don't know if you have a day job or if YouTube is your full-time job. If it's not, I definitely see YouTube becoming something full-time for you in the very near future.
Well, I mean, for me at least, I've had a YouTube channel since 2007. I didn't really get serious with it until maybe 2017 or so.
Okay.
But I mean, back when I was a kid, like used to, you could like just you didn't have like you had to like find the family computer and search up a picture of a Challenger or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I had a bunch of books of like pictures of cars and trucks and stuff, but I started like I'd look up like pictures of cars because I like to draw, and I
Yeah.
would look up a picture of a car, beg my mom, hey, could you print this out for me so I could draw a picture of it, stuff like that. But whenever you were like doing those Google searches, all of a sudden these YouTube videos start popping up, and then you could watch a video of a Challenger, you could watch a video of a Charger. So I thought that was cool. And growing up, I mean, I still am, but I've just always been obsessed with any kind of like car chase with an old car in it. So I grew up just watching all of that and got to the point where I kind of was really interested in how movies were filmed and how videos were done like that. And, as I grew up, I started to think, why don't we just combine working on cars and making videos? And no, I never expected it to be what it is right now, but it turned out to be pretty awesome. But no, I just like, working on stuff and dad, back before I could even like buy a car that I wanted, dad would go buy a car he found and then we clean it up and he would, either fix it or resell it or whatever. So I just said, hey, can I bring a camera along with me and just see what it's like? And I had no idea that people would be as enthusiastic about it as they were. And, just from there, it just kind of spiraled. But I mean, we would do this stuff regardless. I mean, the things that we work on, the things that we do, I mean, this is things that we were already doing beforehand. I just so happened to start to film it. So that's kind of where it began.
Wow, yeah, it's got to be crazy. Like I always talk to my friends and I say, Hey, if you want to blow up on YouTube, do a will it run video because it seems like these will it run videos are like the key to opening the door because I've seen so many people do that and you're at the top echelon of video creators for those types of videos and I like I said I really enjoy watching the cars that you save and on Talking Mopars we're all about saving Mopars from you know dire circumstances. And I got to say, your Challenger that's one of my favorites. It just resonated with me so much because it was one of the Challengers that there's a lot of people that think the muscle car era died in '72, and it was like downward spiral.
Right.
And I still think that there's a lot of potential in those mid '70s cars, those early mid '70s cars, and they're great. They make great, reasonably priced Mopar projects, and I love the fact that you saved that Challenger and gave it a new lease on life, and I think a lot of people recognize that, and you know, um, you're one of the people that I would credit for making that car like, okay, now people are looking at those Challengers and going, hey man, it's nothing wrong with a Sad Mal Challenger. Come on, they're cheap. Um,
No, absolutely not. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, any kind of Challenger that my dad could get his hands on, that's what he would buy. So I grew up, the Challenger's one of my top favorite Mopars,
Absolutely.
but it doesn't matter. I mean, a Challenger of any year is really cool. But like you said about anything like 72 on, I mean, I've got like a 77 or I'm sorry, it's a 78 Cordoba that I
Nice.
absolutely love.
Yeah.
It's a big block 400. I mean, the guy I got it from had long tubes, 373s in it. Put
Wow.
a 2800 RPM converter, 440 source heads, a nice cam, and that thing will absolutely rip. So, and I don't have a lot of money in it. I don't want people to forget about those later cars that still had big blocks in them, and
Yeah.
like a Cordoba or the Charger of that year, they don't weigh a whole lot more than like an early or a late '60s B body. They're
Yeah.
really not. They're pretty much the same dimensions. People just rack on them because they're heavy boats, but they'll get down if you really want them to.
Absolutely. You can hot rod anything as long as it's got a
Yeah,
V8 in it. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
I have to ask you, you have a large stable of cars, and to be honest with you, I've lost track of what you have.
Me
Can
too.
you share with the audience the entire McCool stable of cars that you have right now?
Oh man, I'd have to get a list out. There's
Good.
so many of them. I mean, we can start. I have two 78 Cordobas. let's see, I got a 73 Challenger. That's the picture that I have here. I try to get my camera to work, but it wouldn't communicate. But
No worries.
that's the day I got it. My picture there. Um, let's see. I have two. Wait. Yeah, two 69 Chargers and one 68. Um, like a bunch of darts. I don't even know how many darts. I lost count of how many darts. There's a bunch of trucks. Um, a couple C bodies, like a 65 Chrysler, my 65 Monaco. I've got a giant Imperial that I couldn't leave it there, so I had to buy it. And then non Mopars, just got a few like I bought a State Trooper Ford, a 66 Ford with a big block 428 in it. Got a 56
Cool.
Cadillac. But don't get me wrong, they're not like crazy expensive cars. These are literally were buried in the mud in the middle of the backwoods of Tennessee. They're not expensive cars at all. But if I see a deal or see a good car that might make an interesting video, I may not work on it immediately, but I'll pick it up and store it for later or whatever the case may be. But yeah, just a lot of trucks, a lot of darts, a lot of Chargers for some reason, just kind of pop up around everywhere.
That's awesome, man. I have seen many of your truck videos, and I love it because I am a huge fan of the 72 to 80 tin grill Dodge trucks. So it's really nice to see them getting a spotlight on your channel. So props for that. And that's a heck of a collection, man.
Well, hey, you have a really nice tin grill. That truck you have is beautiful.
That was when I saw that truck, because I'm the first to admit that wasn't my vision. Somebody else built that truck, my friend Murray, who happens to be a very good artist and does a lot of really cool custom renderings. I saw that at a Good Guys show, and I fell in love. And he fooled me because I thought it was a real Mr. Norm's Grand Spalding shop truck, just the detail that he had in the lettering, and he even had custom Grand Spalding Dodge stickers
Yeah.
made for it. And I fell in love with the truck, and 6 years later, I managed to somehow make it mine. And I love that thing. But like I said, I'm a huge fan of those trucks, and I really think that when Chargers and Challengers and the E bodies and B bodies we all really love and we hold at the highest regard in Mopar history become so out of reach for the average guy. Because most of us, you know, there's so many people that find these cars and get amazing deals, but there's so many people that want them that it seems like those deals are so few and far between that to the average guy, we look at cars like that, like a 68 Charger or anything 68 through 71, and we're just like, man, I wish I could get that, but we never find those. And I think that the Dodge trucks, the swept lines are obviously really popular. The tin grills are getting even more popular, and they're starting to go for a lot of money. And then we're going to get into the first gen Rams that are going to start getting really popular. And I've said that, as far as car culture, you got the C10 world is huge, and now they're starting to really dig deep into the OBS, the old body styles, so the late 80s and 90s Chevy trucks. I really think that the first gen Rams are headed in the same direction as the C10 movement, and I really see the second gen Rams really following up with that, because those can still be found for decent prices. And a lot of them, a majority of them, I would say, have the 5.2. They got the 318s, and then if you get lucky and you find one with a 360, then you're good to go. Fun little hot rod truck. So I love when people spotlight trucks as well, and it's always fun to see them get pulled out of the weeds and get running. So I really enjoyed those videos. I have a really hard question to ask you. With a collection as big as yours, you have to have a favorite.
Oh,
What car? And obviously it doesn't have to be a Mopar, but what vehicle is your favorite in the collection?
man, every time I get asked this question, it's always like, if you ask like your parents to pick a favorite child between you and your
Sure.
sibling or something like that. I mean, it kind of sways sometimes. It just depends on which one's running the best. I think that probably maybe I'd have to split it between two, because I still have my first car. I
Oh,
still have
cool.
I sold it, and
Oh,
let's see, I sold it when I was 17. What year was that? That would have been 2013. And when it was probably 2018 or 2019. the guy I sold it to messaged me on Facebook telling me he still had it because I saved his number
Wow.
just in case I ever
Yeah.
got to the point where I could buy it back because
Sure.
I had to sell it, being a broke high schooler, I wanted to, make a little money, but I didn't think about it at the time. I guess I'd have to split it between that car and my blue 72 Dart just because I took a lot of parts off of my first car to make that like I took the entire cross member and front suspension, rear suspension, some interior parts. I stole a lot of stuff off that 74 Dart Sport to make my 72 finally run. So it's kind of like they're both the same car. They've kind of like they shared so many parts. So if I really had to pick just one to keep, it would probably be one of those.
That's awesome, especially coming from a guy like I have a really good friend. His name's Johnny Mopar. A lot of people know him. He has a lot of Chargers, and he has an A body that he loves the A body too. But the Chargers are held in such high regard, and it's really funny to me that you have you know some of the greatest Chargers ever made, and you choose an A body or two A bodies. That's awesome. I respect that. I think that's awesome. And hey, much respect to you for keeping the number of the guy you sold your car to, because we hear so many stories about the ones that get away, and while you let yours go, you got it back. That's a great story to hear. um I do know that you're a fan of demons,
Yes.
and when we were in Georgia, I was looking at the demon that they had, and when you showed up, I was like, oh man, he's because I really want that demon. I'm just not sure I can make it happen at this point. But I was like, oh, he for sure is going to get this demon. I was hoping that you were going to get it so I didn't have to, because that's a
Right.
lot of money to ship back. I live in Washington State, and it's going to be a lot of money to ship it. So I was like, oh man, that's going to be rough. How hard are you looking for a demon right now?
So it goes way back. It goes way back. It actually goes in because of my 72 Swinger. I wanted a twin to that car
Okay.
just with the Dart Sport Demon Duster body style. And being that I had, my first car being that 74 Dart Sport, I wanted to have, a Demon that kind of matched my 72. And I found a perfect, absolutely perfect 72 Demon. It was petty blue, black stripes, had the dual snorkel, black stripes on the hood and everything. Blue interior, 340 automatic car,
Ooh,
perfect driver, had rally wheels, white letters. I mean, and it was ratty. It was an all original car. I mean, absolutely untouched, but it was a good running and driving car. And at the time, this was like, mid 2018. He wanted 7,500 bucks for the car, which
okay.
is an absolute steal
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now. And I messaged the guy. I said, "Hey, I want to come look at that car and buy it because I hadn't bought my Charger yet, hadn't bought anything yet, and I really, really wanted this car." And the day I was supposed to go look at it, he said, "You know what? My wife talked me into keeping it." I'm like,
Oh.
when does anybody's wife ever talk them into keeping the car? That was a shocker to me. So
uh,
he ended up keeping the car, and I found the car probably maybe a year or two later for sale again by him, and he had, like, gone through the engine and stuff, cleaned up a few things, and then he wanted 12.5, or no, he wanted 10.5 for it, I'm sorry. It sold fast. It went
yeah.
very fast because it's a good looking car. Then I found it again a year later for 12.5, and I'm like, "Man, I can't just get this car." But, um, I mean, I've been wanting one for a while just because of the way the 72 grill is my favorite out of that early A body because
Yeah.
it's that 1 year only grill. It's a clean lines. It's just very, very minimalist. It doesn't have a lot going on, and I like that. And I'm sure I don't know if you had seen the video about me getting scammed out of a Demon.
I saw it's been a while since I watched that one. Um, tell the folks about that, because I know I've been scammed, and I know a lot of people have been led on by these ads. So go ahead and fill people in on that story.
So before I tell the story, just know that when you find that your dream car or one of your dream cars a lot of your common sense kinda gets thrown out the window,
Oh yeah.
of course. So you kinda get, you get that, the blinders just go up, you immediately just don't see all these big red flags telling you, "Hey, maybe don't do this." So I found this car on Facebook, and it was a '72, no, I'm sorry, I think it was a '71 Demon. It was a V8 car, 3-speed. It was white, and, yeah, John Wilburn already knows about the Western Sizzlin part. So, I had a I saw the car, and he was asking, like, 1,800 bucks for it, I think, or something really stupidly low, and I thought it was, like, because the guy I was like, "There's no way." So I asked him, I said, "Could you call me and talk to me about it?" And he did. We talked on the phone. This guy literally had a conversation with me and told me things about the car that only somebody who had a Demon would know about. He knew specifics about it. He said, "I'll be honest with you, I'm a Chevy guy. I bought this car and just really want to get out of it." I'm like, "Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense." That's why he's probably priced so cheap. So we arrange a time to meet. It's like 4 hours away, and we start to get loaded up and everything. And then I kept asking him for pictures of under the hood, inside the car, and he's like, "Yeah, yeah, I'll send you those."
Mm.
And he's like, "If you wanna go ahead and put a down payment on it, I'll go ahead and do that." And I said, "Yeah, that's fine, that's fine." So I PayPal'd him. I think he dropped the price to 1,500 bucks. I said, "Yeah, I'll PayPal you that."
God.
Or actually, I gave him half, and he said, "If you wanna go ahead and give me the other half, because I have some," I think he said he had, like, some housework to do. I'm like, "Okay, yeah, you seem like a nice enough guy." Red flags everywhere. He never sent me a picture of the VIN. I asked for that multiple times, and that was, to my stupidity, after I'd already paid him. And then he just ghosted me. Didn't say a word. And I'm going with a friend of mine to take this drive, and he says he's the kind that, like, he's my best friend, but he's the kind that, like, he'll egg you on to get you to do something, but then when things go wrong, he's like, "I don't know. It wasn't my fault."
Oh man.
But he kept wanting. He said, "Let's just go. Let's just go. Let's just do it." I said, "I think it's a scam, but I'll go." So we get about an hour or so out of town, and the dude just won't message us back. So again, like John Wilburn said down here, we stopped at a Western Sizzlin off the interstate, and he starts asking around. My buddy does. He said he knows some people who live in the town that we're going to. He says, "Does anybody know this name, or if he's legit, or if anybody could check out on a car?" A guy messages him and says, "Yeah, I had the same exact instance where that exact person was selling like a '58 Impala or something like that, and they wanted an absurdly low price for it, and it turned out to be a scam." So at that point,
Man.
I was tore up, I was upset, and I said in the video, I said the Western Sizzlin, I think it was a Philly cheesesteak I had there was the best part of the trip. It's the only reason I wasn't upset because we ate good for
Oh
the night.
God.
But the good news is that I did get my money back.
Good.
Filed a dispute with PayPal. They gave me my money back, but it was a roller coaster of emotions over like a course of 24 hours. It was a lot.
Yeah, man. That's so unfortunate. And gosh, how many times did that guy get away with that scam?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like car folks like us, like you were saying, we're emotional people when it comes to something we want so bad, and we want it to be real so bad. I've ran into some scams like that, and one thing, and the cliche, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But as car people, when we see a crazy deal, we want to believe so bad, Like I had a guy at work. He's a newer guy, and he was telling me he found out that I had a podcast and that I was a Mopar guy. So first he's telling me that he bought $1,000 Little Red Express, but he doesn't have it anymore. Doesn't have any pictures of it because he lost it in a divorce. So I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a really good deal. It's too bad you lost the truck. You know what I mean? And then like a week later, he tells me that I'm a garbage man by trade. So he's on this garbage route in a city not too far from where I live. And he tells me that he saw in Violet, an FC7 1970 Superbird in somebody's yard, okay, with no nose cone, but it had the big wing. And of course, I'm looking at him with skeptical eyes. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, asking him some questions. I'm like, you do realize how rare an Inviolate Superbird would be. And I know enough people in this local area in the Mopar community that if that car really existed, everybody would know about it. I don't think there's a special car that is even a not so special. Like I know of a '73 Duster that's just sitting in a yard, and it's been there forever. It's got a 73 front end. It's actually like a 70 or 71. Um, but I posted it up, and it was in an area where I didn't think anybody would have known about the car. And multiple people were like, "Oh, that car's been there for 15 years." So the idea that a 70 Superbird, is just sitting
Right.
somewhere in somebody's yard, and he made the mistake of telling me, "Yeah, this old guy owns it, and it's for sale for 10 grand. He'd sell it for 10 grand." And I was like, okay, well, where's the car? Because if that's the case, I will go buy it right now. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden now the excuses come out. Oh, I don't remember where it's at. And I'm like, come on, dude. And he's like, I could probably find it. And I was like, let's pull up Google Earth right now, and you just show me the general area, and I will search it for hours until I find that car. And to make a long story short, he never came through with the pictures and had a bunch of excuses why. So he lost all credibility with me. I don't even
Yeah.
like talking to that guy anymore. I'm like, man, you don't have to lie to kick it. You know what I mean?
Right. We can hang out. It's okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that kind of stuff is just super disappointing that people take advantage of people's passion for these cars. Um, let's shift the conversation a little bit. I do want to talk, because we didn't have a chance to talk when we were at the muscle car sell-off that Mopars 5150 was holding. But I'm curious. I know I was just in awe in the amount of cars, especially like special cars. It wasn't just small block, nothing special JH Challengers or BH Barracudas. There was a lot of cool cars there: Super Breeze, Cudas, Challenger RTs, Chargers. What were your thoughts at that property with all those cars?
Can I like live here? I guess.
Yeah.
Can I move in? I was very impressed. I thought it was awesome. And I think you can tell how excited I was in the video that I posted about it, just because of like there's so many cars that are just like you don't see. And the only time you ever see that many Mopars that are like that is at a car show that is
Yeah.
Mopar specific, and they're all like either drivable or restored. Like you don't just see wrecked Challengers, rusty Chargers, and Cudas just hanging out in a backyard, out off in the middle of absolute nowhere. I mean, we stayed on a 2-lane road for, I swear, an hour,
Yeah.
and I thought we were never gonna make it there. But it was out in plain as day, just, Chargers everywhere. I mean, that had to be the most ratty Chargers I've seen in one spot, and they were all for sale. So
Yeah.
I was in shock. I was really excited to see all that stuff.
Man, I'm glad I'm not the only one, because I was like a kid in a candy store. I was just like, this is unbelievable, and watching people's reactions. I'm still getting messages of, where are these cars at? And then
Yes, me too.
I'm I'm getting hate messages like they're all mine. They're like,
Right.
"Well, why would you let them sit like that?" I'm like, hey, relax. For one, they're all for sale. So if you want to be a hero and save them, you're more than welcome to. It's just funny how the internet works. But yeah, it was I was just blown away. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, I think the only way you could possibly see this many cool Mopars in one place is to go to a Mopar specific salvage yard, like a Stevens Performance or something like that. I was just blown away. And to find out, those guys are all cool. You got Tony and Troy, and they're just all really cool people. And I found out that, oh, this is nothing compared to what the other stuff that they have, scattered across the country. And I'm just like, mind blown. But I had to ask you what your opinion was on that, because even recording the videos that I was just thinking to myself, God, I probably sound like a dork right now, because I'm just gushing over all these ratty cars. And I said the same thing that you just said. It was like, I've never seen so many ratty Chargers in one place. It was amazing. But I am curious if you could take one car from that entire collection, nothing that was inside, because there was some really cool stuff inside. One project car from the outside of that collection, which one would it be?
I don't know if we lost you there for a minute, or was it me that I don't know what happened, but your screen went black for a second, but I think you're good now.
Oh, okay. You got me now?
Yeah, I'm good now. I just wanted to
Okay.
know, for one car that I could probably pick. Well, I mentioned it in the video what the deal of the day, in my opinion, was. Out back there was that 70 GTX.
Yeah.
I think it was Alpine white, black top, black stripe, air grabber hood, 440 car that they were asking like 10.5 for.
Crazy, right?
It was rusty, but it was
Yeah.
still like, I'm like, you don't see this ever. But if I had to pick one car that I could take out of all of them, it would probably be that white 70 Charger with a 446 pack, 4-speed,
Mhm.
gator grain top. Oh,
Beautiful
absolutely,
car.
absolutely beautiful, perfect in every way.
Yeah. Those gator grain tops, there's just something about that gator grain that gets
Yeah.
me every time.
Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
the 70 Charger is it's not my favorite of the 3
Mhm.
years, but I gotta say that it's hard to beat when you see it, just something so immaculate and
Yeah.
with black interior. Man, it's beautiful. 'Cause
Yeah.
there's a local 70 Charger. I can't remember if it's a 446 pack or not, but it is a big block car. It's an RT. It's black with burnt orange interior.
Ooh.
And you wanna talk about beautiful. Every time I
Yeah.
see it, I just drool all over it. So it's those weird color combos are probably my favorite.
You know, Dylan, you sound like the type of guy like me where, your videos speak for themselves. When you see these cars and trucks just sitting in a field, rotting away, so to speak, um, do you see them like I do, where you don't see them in their current state, but you kind of see what they could be, once cleaned up? That's the vibe I get from you, especially with the Challenger. Once you started cleaning that thing up, I was like, wow, it's like cleaning up really nice.
Well, I'll tell you, it's actually a funny story. I almost did not buy that Challenger
Oh, really?
because I thought that it was too far gone. Believe it or not, I thought, "Man, this thing needs a lot more work than I thought it would." And my dad looked at me, he said, "If you do not buy this car, I'm buying it. We're not leaving here with a manual transmission Challenger sitting in a field." I said,
Yeah.
"You know what? Okay, fine." So I bought it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's hard. I think that's kind of where a lot of the disconnect is for some folks because they don't see what the car could be. Yeah, it takes a lot of work to get to that point, but with just like a couple weekends of work and enjoying the car, you can really have a lot of fun and make something out of nothing. Like, for instance, my 72 D100, it's affectionately named Rump. Old state truck, I'd assume. It had zero options, 318 two barrel, 3-speed man. It was on the column, but they put a floor shift in it. They literally built a floor hump out of a piece of roofing tin. It
Oh,
was
wow.
bad. It was bad. But it was sitting in a junkyard, and as soon as I saw it, I said, "I have to have this truck. It is absolutely beautiful." And, I took it home and, it's one of the best running trucks that I have. I mean, it is an absolute pile because of the wiring. I mean, I spent so much fixing wiring connections and all that stuff. And it's an ugly truck. It is a rough truck, but it is a great running and driving truck. And I probably have less than 1,500 bucks as it sits in that
Wow.
truck. And it runs and drives great. And people can have a lot of fun just by being a little thrifty with, find a
Yeah.
part here and there. Just throw a little bit of time at it, a little bit of money, go to car shows, go to swap meets, man. It's not as bad as you think as long as you know what you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. I am curious. When we talk about, obviously, the prices of muscle cars are getting kind of crazy, for the average guy, unless you happen across a really good deal like we were talking about earlier. Sometimes those things just happen. What is your what is your advice as far as somebody that, wants to get into, we'll just keep it Mopar specific. If somebody wanted a Mopar project car and they say, "Hey, I want a cheap Mopar project car," what direction would you steer them?
Four doors.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Four doors are the way to go. I
Yes, sir.
mean, I was just talking to Mike Musto about this the other day. Four doors are no longer parts cars. I mean, I know that
Right?
maybe the older generation has a sentiment towards that being true, but it's gotten to the point where dusters and two-door darts are starting to get, expensive. Like,
Crazy.
it's hard to find a good priced A body now.
Yeah.
But any kind of four-door B body, A body, C body, no matter what it is, a four-door is great. I mean, it's an awesome option. So, and the thing is about the four doors is that they have everything for the most part that a two-door has. I mean,
Yeah.
or they can at least, like you can put a big block in a four-door dart just as much as you can a two-door dart. So that's kind of where I'm at is, if you really wanted to get into a good cheap starter, either a four-door or certain trucks. Like you were saying earlier, you can still find an affordable truck. The sweat lines are starting to get a little bit high,
Yeah.
but 10 grills and like the first gen, they're starting to get they're a little bit easier to find, I would think. But I mean, heck, even a long bed,
Yeah.
there you can find those everywhere, everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I love when I'm surfing the internet for project vehicles for sale, and I see someone that I know is not a Mopar enthusiast that has a tin grill because they're always dirt cheap. The problem is you've got guys like us out there that know what they are, and they're gone like that. Same thing with the sedans. Gosh, was it last year or the year before? I ran across a '69 Coronet sedan for $2,000. It was crazy. It was F8 green with blue interior, all
Whoa,
original. I've never seen
wow.
anything like that before. 318 car, but it was so straight and for 2 grand. And of course, I'm stupid. I was like, nobody's gonna want this thing. It's the ugliest thing I've ever seen, and I loved it. And man, sure as heck, I called the guy and he's like, I already got a lineup of people. If it's not sold, then I'll let you know. And I was like, oh, it'll be sold,
Yeah,
because
that's when you know it's too late. If he's like,
yeah, yeah,
"Yeah, I'll let you know," so no, it's
yeah.
over.
And then I got smart and I was like, of course, I'm not the only guy cruising local Facebook marketplace ads. I know that every diehard Mopar enthusiast does the same thing that I do. And that's why there's always a lineup with these cars. So I always say, if you're not first, you're last in this game.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
or you got to know people. Thankfully, I know some people, but I know there. I mean, I imagine that you get hit up a lot with leads to cars, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah,
mean, I wish that a lot of them I mean, as a car guy in general, not even specifically Mopars, but car guys in general, we wanna save them all. We wanna
yeah, oh,
be
yeah,
able to rescue every single one of them, but it's to the point where, you can't. Sometimes you can't, and I just yesterday, I got an email, about an AMC that was all the way in Denver, Colorado, which is, like a 16, 17-hour drive for me. I'd love it. I think it would be great, but, sometimes you just gotta think realistically about what you
mm,
can and can't do. But yeah, I get a bunch of leads, and I appreciate all of them. I love to.
yeah.
I mean, I got one guy that I've been messaging him for years on Instagram, and he'll send every now and then he'll just send me a demon or a truck deal. I was like, yeah, that's a good deal. I should go look at that. And he's actually I forgot he's the one who sent me the demon that I got scammed on.
Oh no.
And because he's like, "Hey, check this out. This is a good deal." I'm like, "Wow, you're right. I'm gonna go look at it."
Oh,
He felt so bad, but I was like,
man.
"Mate," I was like, "It wasn't your fault. It was all
Mm.
me. I'm the one who did it." But yeah, there's all sorts of leads that get sent to me all the time.
With someone like yourself that has a giant following on YouTube, I know that so many of us, myself included, I'm so far behind in the YouTube game that it's not even funny. It's almost comical at this point. I I know that there's going to be people and myself included that want to know, some tips and tricks for growing a YouTube channel, man. Give us your best tips and tricks and just some advice that you have for somebody who wants to, maybe not be the next Dylan McCool, but they want to grow a following and maybe possibly monetize in the future. What kind of advice would you give to somebody like that?
Well, I guess I can kind of put it in at least for my example. Now, this may not work a month from now, or it may not work, you next week. But I mean, YouTube is constantly changing. There is so many things that YouTube wants to pick up or doesn't want to pick up. I mean, at least for now, I mean, staying advertiser friendly, of course, because YouTube is going to promote things that, you know, foul language or
Mm,
controversial topics. I mean, they have parameters in place to kind of like check your video and see, do you have any kind of, like I said, controversial issues or wording or things that you've done in the video. Um, there's so many things that, go into it. But I mean, as far as like the production of the video, of course, again, YouTube is they promote high quality stuff. They like to see good content. I mean,
mhm.
as far as like finding what works for you though, it's kind of it's trial and error. I mean, when I started doing YouTube videos, I would do them just for fun back before monetization was even a thing on YouTube. I was just making them for the fun of it. But it kind of it caught on. When I started out, I was making like back when I started, it was like review channels were huge, like go
Yeah,
drive
yeah.
this or review of a car. Like that dude in blue, what he did way back then, he was huge back then. So I started doing things like that, except I was scared to talk on the camera. So it ended up being like it transformed into a short film, and then from there, I found out that the abandoned such and such, pull it out of the weeds stuff worked for me. What I do doesn't necessarily work for you or for anybody trying to start a channel, but it's being consistent and growing that subscriber base. I mean, the hardest thing to do is just to start. Once you get
Yeah.
started, then you can kind of test out things. I mean, I've made I made a lot of videos, and I've had a lot of videos not work. There's been people like, I didn't like that. I didn't like what you did there, and I realized that. But I have your
Uh-oh.
comment. Oh,
Oh, there you go. There you go. We lost you for a second. Go ahead.
okay. I lost you too. I was like, is it something on my end? Or I don't know what happened.
Who knows with the internet, you know?
But anyway, I was saying that whatever you do, you have to do trial and error. You have to just be consistent, have good quality. I mean, even your cell phone has a great quality camera, but
Yeah.
I guess the biggest thing, don't get discouraged by ruthless comments because people are mean on the internet. That's just how it is. But just finding what works for you, because, like I said, what I do may not work for you or for somebody else, but it's what I mean. At the end of the day, you got to make sure you enjoy it and be happy with the content you put out. So, I mean, just find a genre that you're happy with. Start a project car.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to take risks. You gotta do something that people are gonna get their attention. Stick with trends, but kind of make it your own. Do your own little twist on it, or start your own trend. I mean, heck, you never know these days. But that's the thing. Do something that's different, but is relatable. I guess that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the saying, you don't have to be good to start, but you have to start to be good or great.
Right.
So for anybody out there that wants to, start a podcast or, start live streaming or start a YouTube channel like Dylan, just do it. Trial and error. Dylan's absolutely right, 100%. I don't want to take too much of your Sunday, Dylan. So I do want to know, there's a really cool event. Our friend John Wilburn's in the chat, and he has organized the No Name Nationals, which is, uh, I guess, an invitational for people with 500 or more subscribers on YouTube to come out and have a great time at the drag strip. It's going to be an 8th Mile event. There's going to be a car show, and the idea is to get YouTubers from basically all around the world, all around North America, to come out to this event and have a good time. And, a nice little competitive atmosphere with call outs and stuff like that. John Wilburn asked in the chat, he said, "What is Dylan bringing to the No Name Nationals?"
Yeah, I believe, John, you emailed me actually about this, if I'm not mistaken. So I've been thinking about it. It's it's kind of up in the air. I mean, it's either, do I go all out and throw a Hemi something swapped vehicle out, or believe it or not, I have considered taking my little Mustang 2 out there, just
Yeah.
because if it blows up, what's it matter? So I'm kind of on the fence. I mean, I've talked about me and a buddy of mine, Kevin from Junkyard Digs, doing something together. We're just kind of in the works for it if we go. Um, but yeah, we're really. I'd love to go. Even if I don't throw something together, I would love to be there with something. So maybe Mustang, heck, maybe Challenger, maybe, like I said, throw together some rowdy big block, or,
Yeah.
or rowdy Hemi swap something. Just do something like that. But yeah, I don't know yet. Dylan doesn't even know yet. So
So you haven't been called out or anything yet, huh?
yeah, actually, I spoke with Austin Griggs over at Ratty Muscle Cars.
Oh,
He,
yeah?
he wants to do some kind of race. He still doesn't know what he's bringing either, I don't think. But yeah, we talked about doing something there. Uh, yeah, just and I just want to go just to see if I can beat my own time. I reckon. Just
Yeah, sure.
it's fun. That's what I like about that event. At least is there's no stakes to it. You go and run what you brung and
Yeah.
break it if it does, and who cares? So I really want to be at events like that. I love drag racing. I've never done it a whole lot. I don't have a ton of experience on an
Sure.
actual track, but it's so addicting. Like
Yeah.
it's insanely addicting. The first time I ever went was in my blue 74 D100,
Cool.
and I was terrified. Absolutely terrified because I'm like, well, how do I line up? How do I do this? I watched it on TV, but how do you do it? But after that, I was like, I can't stop. I can't not go back and try to beat your own time and try to do this or that. And it's so fun. But another thing too is that you don't have to have a fast car to have fun going down the drag strip.
Absolutely not, man.
I mean, that little Mustang I have is not a rocket ship. Well, it wasn't when I took it drag racing. It's pretty fun now, but like I said, it ran I think like a 10.8 in the 8th mile. Not very fast, but it is
Sure.
a blast to drive. It's so much fun.
Absolutely. I do have a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
I'm curious what your opinion is on modern muscle cars. Do you like the modern Mopars and stuff that are currently out there?
Yeah, yeah, I have
Yep.
nothing. I mean, I'm not a purist by any means. Like,
Sure.
I'm not the one that's mad that they made the Charger into a four door. I get it because you gotta have a four door that can do burnouts and haul the family around.
Sure.
No, I'm a big fan of them, and especially with like Gen 3 Hemi anything. That's
Mm,
my favorite thing about them is the technology associated with the modern muscle. I mean, because think about what it's done for the hobby. I
yeah.
feel like, especially, I mean, you were at Mo Party, just looking
Hmm.
at what the things that Holly has done for Gen 3 Hemi swaps. I mean, nobody was specializing. Well, there were some smaller companies, but nobody has specialized in this on such a grand scale compared
Yeah.
to what Holly's doing. I mean, they come out with stuff every single day. I mean, and I think they're going to start driving up the prices of these 10-year-old trucks, man. The
Yeah.
Hemi swap stuff. It's hard not to just want to Hemi swap everything, but
Yeah.
I
Uh,
I, I have that 2006 Hemi in my Challenger, man. It's awesome. It's so easy. It's not as hard as you think it is. I averaged like 22 miles per gallon in that
Gosh.
car with 391s and an overdrive, and it's just instant torque, instant power. It doesn't sit there and start getting hot at the light. It just idles smooth. Spin the tires, and the air works fine. The heat works fine. It's so much fun.
For folks that have never, I personally have never swapped a Gen 3 Hemi in anything. I do have Gen 3 in the garage that I want to put in the Mr. Norm truck. I am curious, and I'm sure some other people are curious, how hard and how difficult is it to swap a Gen 3 into a classic Mopar?
Well, I'll put it this way. I have never dealt with anything fuel injected before I did mine. The only
Hmm.
thing I'd ever messed with was carburetors and distributors. I was terrified when I first started. Um, but as far as like it's specifically for your truck, I mean, Holly makes
Yeah.
everything you need for that truck.
Yeah.
Literally everything. And a good set of conversion mounts, the right oil pan, and if you can use the factory harness. I didn't because, well, just for a couple of reasons, just for the tunability of it, and you got to use the original gas pedal because it's drive by wire instead of a cable driven. I didn't really care for all that. I liked it
Hmm.
to be. I wanted mine to be as simple and basic as possible, but I would put it on par. Besides, like figuring out, making sure your sensors and your wiring is correct. I'd put it on par as going from a small block to a big block because you
Awesome.
got to have conversion mounts, got to have the right transmission, got to have the right this or that. But I mean, when it's all said and done, I mean, there's some things. There's a steep learning curve right at the beginning of it all. Like you got to know which pulley system you have, which timing cover you have, which alternator you're using. What is it, pre VVT? Is it VVT cam? Do you
Yeah.
have MDS? Do you not? There's a lot of things that you have to figure out up front, but as soon as you do, you can talk it just like talking a small block in a big block. I mean, for your truck specifically, I mean, is yours a small block truck?
Yeah, mine's got a 360 in it.
So going from the 360 to a Hemi, the Hemi uses the exact same bell housing bolt pattern as
Yeah.
a small block. So if you didn't want to change anything in your transmission, you could drop that engine in there with the conversion mounts, and you could use it as a carbureted. You could put an intake on it and a carburetor, but if you already have all the fuel injection stuff, it's well worth it. I mean, external pump, if you had to, run a supply and a return with a good regulator, get
Yeah.
power to it, and Terminator X from Holly, man, it's simple. Like I said, you follow the instructions, plug it in where it's supposed to, and it tells you on the the harness itself where it goes. It's really not as bad as you think.
Absolutely. That's exactly the same thing that I've been seeing. And, my thing was always if I did swap a Gen 3 on it, I definitely would have to get one of those nice 4 barrel aluminum intakes and stuff. And then, because with the Gen 3 Hemis, if I'm being honest, unless it's a 6.1 with that beautiful aluminum intake or the Hellcat engine with that gorgeous supercharger on top of it, I really am not a big fan of the plastic intake manifolds visually. But Holly makes that amazing stealth intake. So I've been trying to figure out what direction I really want to go. But they are awesome engines, and I am glad to see, companies like my friends from DIY Hemi that do all the wiring stuff, and companies like Holly. When the big companies start getting involved, that they wouldn't do that unless they saw a trend developing, and that makes me excited because I know that Dodge is kind of leaning towards the electric stuff, but I really hope that they never stop producing Hemi crane engines because, eventually, thankfully, there's millions of cars that were produced with Hemis, and we're going to be seeing them in the salvage yards. So there should be no shortage of Hemis, but knowing that we can at least still go directly to Mopar and get those crate engines is a very nice thing to know. Um, Before I let you go, I did have a buddy on Facebook reach out to me that said he had a story that involved you. It's Justin Baker.
Yeah,
Can you tell me this story?
yeah. He's actually in the chat, I think.
Yeah, yeah, he
Um,
is.
okay. So back again, associated with that first charger I bought. I was doing a live stream on YouTube, and I was telling people, "Hey, I'm really wanting a 68 to 70 charger." I had found one in the backyard, like about 10 minutes from where I lived, but the guy wouldn't sell. He didn't want to sell it. Then the demon thing fell through, and I'm doing a live stream just talking, "Hey, I'd love to have a charger." And Justin commented and said, "Hey, I've got a buddy that has a charger for sale if you're interested." And at first, when I saw it, I thought, no, he's just talking. He's not being serious. Then I got to thinking, I was like, maybe I should just chase that just for a second. I don't need to not say that that's a legit thing. So I told him, I said, email me and then we'll talk. And sure enough, he did and sent me all these pictures of this 69 Charger that was sitting in a field, and it sat since there was a one owner car,
Wow.
sat since I think it was like 34, 35 years that it had been sitting, and real rusty, real ugly, but it was a perfect patina on it. Perfect. All sorts of different colors. The interior was thrashed. The engine was just all in pieces, but it was running. He's like, it runs. It'll sit here and run, just not that well. And I said, what are you asking for? And he told me, and I was like, okay, we might have to commit to this. And I said, do you care to FaceTime me? And we talked for like an hour, and every single thing that I asked to show, like to see on the car.
Oh no, we lost Dylan during the story. Dylan, hopefully we get you back in a second here. I'll have to interrupt the story to make sure we get it all. Um, oh, that's how. Gotta love the internet, right?
My bad.
Dylan, you're back. You're back,
Oh,
dude.
sorry, I
Go.
don't know what's happened. That was weird.
Yeah, that was weird. So, you cut. I lost you at the point where you were talking about asking the gentleman to send you information.
Okay, so yeah, well, we talked, and he showed me pictures of the car, and then I asked him if we could FaceTime, and sure enough, we stayed on the phone for about an hour, and everything that I wanted to see, I said, "Can you show me this? Can you show me that?" We walked around that car for the longest time. And, he showed me every single thing I wanted to look at, showed me the inside, showed me any rust he knew about. And sure enough, I was like, okay, this is the car. This is the one. Except it was 750 miles from home. So,
Oh man.
so I was like, how can we make this happen? So, got the money together, got everything situated. And I talked to Dad. I said, listen, there is a Charger out in Oklahoma. Do you want to go with me to get it? And he's like, heck yeah, I want to go get it. We left on, I want to say we left on a Friday morning, drove, I want to say it was over 12 hours to get there by the time we
Wow.
got there. Rolled into Oklahoma at like midnight, or no, it was like 2 in the morning, I want to say. It was late. Oh, it was late. And I was tired. Got a hotel room, stayed there that night, got up that Saturday morning and drove to look at the car. And, I was like speechless when I saw this car. And the dude I bought it from, he rolls up in a 60, I think it was a 69 Charger. That was his daily driver.
Oh
He
wow.
just, it's raining, pouring down rain, and he just slides through the mud and pulls up. He's like, "What's up, man?" I'm like, "This is cool." And so we look around the car. It's a 69 RT. It's not an RT. It's an SE 383 HP 4 barrel,
Nice.
323 gears, power window car,
Oh
uh,
cool.
green on green, and I think it came from the factory with a white top, if I remember. I don't remember exactly, but it was, it was complete. It was really complete. And we struck up a deal, got the car loaded, and he's like, "Hey, while you're here, let's go look at all these other Chargers." I mean, they had like
Oh
wreck
man.
Chargers in the back.
Wow.
He drove me down the road a ways. He's like, "Check out this General Lee. Check out this." I mean, there's Chargers everywhere, and he's just sending me pictures and showing me stuff. But we left. We probably left around, I want to say, but it was before lunchtime. We left and drove about 2 hours straight, and it was on a 2-lane highway to get back home. And we finally kind of got close to the interstate, and we pulled off before we hit the interstate. Got to a gas station and stopped. And it's literally in the video that this happens. And um, we noticed how like rough the roads were, how
Yeah.
bouncy everything was. I mean, the car was just shaking. I'm like, we got to get back on the interstate at some point. I walk around the car and I said, oh, wait a minute. The back glass is gone.
Oh no.
It was there when we left, but now it's somewhere in the middle of a 2-lane highway in Oklahoma.
Oh no.
And I looked at Dad. I said, what do we do? And I was like, I guess we just keep going. And we looked around for anything else that might fall off the car, and kind of secured stuff. But we drove the rest of the way home with no back glass in the car. I mean,
Gosh.
it came a giant thunderstorm. We
Oh
were we
no.
were racing the rain the entire time. We hit rain in what was it, Arkansas, and it
Mm.
rained straight from through Arkansas until we got into Memphis. And with Memphis is 4 hours for me, but I felt like I was finally home at that point. We rolled in the house probably around 1 o'clock on Sunday morning. We had just enough time to unload the car and get it inside the shop, and it came a monsoon as soon
Oh
as we
my
got
God.
back. So we did 1,500 miles in one weekend, and it took every bit of like our energy and willpower to even make it back. But that's a lot of driving, but we made it back. But the only reason I got it was because of Justin. So he's the mediator on that one. He helped me out a lot to get that car. So really, really fun, really cool dude.
That's awesome. What a story and what a great way to end the show. Dylan, for the people that have been living under a rock, where can they find all your content?
Check out on YouTube. Just type in Dylan McCool. I'm on there. Instagram. It's the same thing. I try to make everything my name. So if you just type in Dylan McCool, you should be able to find me just about anywhere. I've got Facebook pages, the Viewer Ride and Discussion, if you want to check it out, or Dylan McCool on YouTube. It's where I post all my videos, or just how, share your project, just a good place to come hang out and talk. Things like that. I post like, sometimes I'll do like behind the scenes stuff or post before a video comes out on an Instagram message or something, or on a post. But if you want to reach out to me, you can message me on Instagram or my Facebook page. That's the easiest way to get in touch with me. If you have a question or something, uh, I'm happy to help anybody. If they need help with, like, figuring out what part to buy or how to get something to run, just shoot me a message. If I don't get to you, it's not that I don't want to. It's just, get a lot of messages, but
Yeah.
that's why I do it, is to help people maybe learn something here and there, and you know get some of the information out there that somebody might not know. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Dylan, thank you so much for joining us here on Talking Mopars Direct Connections Live. I would love to have you again to talk about some future adventures. And I believe the next place, if you're going to be there, I'm not quite sure. I will see you is at Mo Party, and then we'll probably catch up again at the No Name Nationals, buddy. Thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. And anytime you want me to come on, just shoot me a message. I'd love to come hang out again. It's great.
All all right, brother. Sounds good. Take care, and we will see you all next time. Remember, if you don't subscribe to Dylan McCool, what are you doing? Go subscribe right now. All right. Thank you all for watching. No Mopar left behind. We'll see you next time right here on Talking Mopars.